I sat in my small studio apartment in Phoenix, staring at the array of camera equipment sprawled out on the table. The sunlight filtering through the blinds cast long shadows, creating an almost melancholic atmosphere. This was it. I was ready to put my dream to rest and sell everything. The rejections, the critiques, and the self-doubt had all piled up, forming a mountain I could no longer climb. My phone buzzed, snapping me out of my reverie. It was a message from an unknown number. "Hi Samantha, this is David from Vogue Style. I saw your portfolio online and was very impressed. We have an exclusive photo shoot coming up in New York, and I'd like you to be a part of it. Are you available to discuss this further?" My heart skipped a beat. David? David from Vogue Style? I reread the message several times, my hands trembling. Could this be real? After the countless no's and the doors slammed in my face, here was a door that was not just open but seemingly rolled out a red carpet inviting me in. I quickly typed back. "Yes, I'm available. Thank you so much for this opportunity. When can we talk?" Within minutes, I received a reply. "How about now? I'll call you." Before I could gather my thoughts, my phone rang. I took a deep breath and answered. "Hello, Samantha speaking." "Hi, Samantha. This is David. I appreciate you taking my call on such short notice." "Of course, David. Thank you for reaching out. I'm honestly a bit overwhelmed right now." "I understand," he said with a chuckle. "Your work is exceptional, and I believe you have the talent we're looking for. We need a fresh perspective for our upcoming issue, and I think you could be that perspective." Wow, I don't know what to say. This means so much to me. Great. So, can you be in New York by the end of the week? We need to start preparations immediately. Yes, absolutely. I'll book my flight today. Perfect. My assistant Emma will meet you at the airport and take care of all the arrangements. I'll see you in the studio. Hanging up, I felt a surge of emotions, excitement, hope, and a tinge of fear. This was my chance, perhaps my last chance, to prove myself. I immediately booked my flight and started packing. The doubts and fears that had been plaguing me seemed to dissipate, replaced by a renewed sense of purpose. The flight to New York felt like the longest journey of my life. As the plane touched down, I took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves. True to his word, Emma was there to meet me, holding a sign with my name on it. "Hi, Samantha." "I'm Emma," she greeted me with a warm smile. "Welcome to New York. How was your flight?" "Hi, Emma. It was good, a bit nerve-wracking, but I'm excited to be here. We're thrilled to have you. Let's get you to the studio. We have a lot to prepare." The drive to the studio was filled with small talk, but I couldn't help but marvel at the bustling city around me. This was where dreams were made, and I was determined to make mine a reality. As we arrived at the studio, I was introduced to the team: Jason, the talented makeup artist, and Caroline, the renowned stylist. "Hey, Samantha." "I'm Jason," he said, giving me a friendly nod. "Looking forward to working with you." "Likewise," I replied, shaking his hand. "Hi, I'm Caroline," the stylist greeted me, her eyes scanning me with a critical but professional gaze. "Let's make some magic happen." The session began, and I felt the pressure mounting. Every click of the shutter was a reminder of what was at stake. There were moments when the lighting was off or the angles didn't work, but I pushed through, relying on my passion and instincts. "Try adjusting the light over there," I directed one of the assistants, trying to perfect the shot. "Got it," he replied, moving quickly. As the session progressed, I could feel the energy shift. The team started to see what I saw through my lens: beauty, emotion, and a story waiting to be told. By the end of the day, as I took the final shot, the room erupted in applause. "You did it, Samantha. Emma exclaimed, rushing over to hug me. That was incredible. Thank you, Emma. I couldn't have done it without all of you. David walked over, his eyes filled with approval. Samantha, you have exceeded my expectations. Well done. I smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment wash over me. But as the applause died down and the team began to disperse, a small voice in the back of my mind reminded me that this was just the beginning. What came next was still uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. That night, as the city lights of New York twinkled outside the window, I found myself sitting across from David in an elegant restaurant. The air was thick with anticipation and curiosity. David, with his composed demeanor and sharp suit, seemed to radiate an aura of authority and confidence that both intimidated and excited me. Samantha, he began, his voice smooth yet commanding, I must say, your work today was exceptional. You have a unique eye, and it's exactly what Vogue style needs right now. I felt a rush of pride, but I also couldn't shake off the lingering doubts from my recent struggles. Thank you, David. It means a lot to hear that, especially coming from you. He leaned forward slightly, his gaze piercing yet sincere. I'm not here to just compliment you. I have a proposition that I believe could change the trajectory of your career. My heart raced as I listened intently. Go on, I urged, trying to keep my voice steady. David paused, seemingly choosing his words carefully. I want to offer you an exclusive contract with Vogue Style. This means you'll be our go-to photographer for major shoots, with guaranteed features in every issue. It's a chance to cement your place in the fashion world. I was stunned. This was the break I had been yearning for, the opportunity to prove myself on a grand scale. That sounds incredible, David. I don't know what to say. Say you'll consider it, he said with a slight smile. But there's something you need to know first. The tone of his voice shifted, becoming more serious, almost conspiratorial. There have been attempts to sabotage your shoot today. I suspect someone from the inside is involved. My mind reeled. Sabotage? But why? Who would want to do that? David shook his head, looking troubled. I'm not certain yet. But I have my suspicions. I just wanted to make you aware of the potential risks. You're stepping into a competitive world, Samantha, and not everyone plays fair. I took a deep breath, trying to process this new information. I appreciate your honesty, David. Despite the risks, I can't let this opportunity slip away. I'll accept the contract. Excellent, he said, his smile returning. I knew you had the spirit to take this on. But be cautious. Trust is a rare commodity in our industry. The next few days were a whirlwind. I signed the contract and began immersing myself in the new role. Emma, David's assistant, became my closest ally, and together we started to piece together clues about the sabotage. Our bond grew stronger as we navigated the challenges ahead. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, Emma and I sat down for a coffee. Emma, have you noticed anything unusual about Jason lately? I asked, referring to the makeup artist who had been acting strangely distant. Emma looked thoughtful. Now that you mention it, he has been a bit off. But I can't believe he would try to sabotage you. We need to be sure, I insisted. Let's keep an eye on him and see if we can gather any evidence. The tension in the studio was palpable as we discreetly observed Jason. One day, while he was distracted, Emma managed to find a cryptic note in his bag. It hinted at a larger conspiracy, but nothing conclusive. Feeling the pressure, I decided to confront Jason directly. Jason, I need to talk to you, I said, cornering him in the break room. He looked surprised, but composed. Sure, Samantha. What's on your mind? I found this note, I said, showing it to him. It seems to suggest you're involved in trying to sabotage my work. Is that true? Jason's eyes widened in shock. What? No, I swear, I had nothing to do with it. I don't know how that note got there. I studied his face, searching for any signs of deceit. He seemed genuinely confused and hurt by the accusation. All right, Jason. I'll believe you for now. But if you know anything, you need to tell me. He nodded, looking relieved. I promise, Samantha. I'll keep an eye out and let you know if I find anything suspicious. As we left the break room, Emma whispered to me, "Do you think he's telling the truth?" I don't know, I admitted. But we need to keep digging. Someone is trying to bring me down, and I won't stop until I find out who it is. That night, Emma and I revisited the studio, hoping to uncover more clues. In a dusty corner, we found another note, this one more explicit. It pointed towards a deeper conspiracy, involving someone higher up the chain. This is getting more twisted than I imagined, I said, feeling a chill run down my spine. Emma nodded, her face pale. We need to be careful, Samantha. Whoever is behind this won't go down without a fight. Determined and with a renewed sense of purpose, we vowed to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. After finding the mysterious note, Emma and I couldn't shake off the feeling that we were onto something big. We decided to dig deeper into Caroline's background. Late at night, we sat in my small rented apartment, laptops open, the glow from the screens casting eerie shadows on our faces. Did you find anything yet? Emma asked, her eyes narrowing as she scrolled through numerous articles and social media profiles. Not much, I replied, frustrated. Just the usual professional stuff. Nothing that screams I am sabotaging your career. Emma sighed, there has to be something. No one goes to such lengths without a strong motive. We continued our research for hours until Emma stumbled upon an old article about a fashion scandal years ago. It mentioned Caroline's name in connection with David. Look at this! Emma exclaimed, pushing her laptop toward me. The headline read, "Upcoming Stylist Rejected by Vogue Editor." The story detailed how Caroline had been turned down by David for a major project, leading to her fall from grace in the industry. So, she has a grudge against David, I said, piecing things together. But why target me? Emma pondered for a moment before responding, maybe she sees you as a pawn in her revenge plan. Or worse, she wants to destroy David by destroying his new star. The next day, we decided to confront Caroline. We caught her in the studio during a break. I approached her cautiously, trying to gauge her reaction. Caroline, we need to talk, I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. She looked up, feigning innocence. Oh. About what? About why you've been trying to sabotage my career, I replied, straightforward. Caroline's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of anger. But she quickly masked it with a smile. I have no idea what you're talking about. Cut the crap, Caroline, Emma interjected. We know about your history with David and your connection to Mark. At the mention of Mark, Caroline's facade cracked. What do you know about Mark? She demanded. Enough to know that you're in this together, I said, standing my ground. Why? Why go to such lengths? Caroline's expression hardened. You wouldn't understand. David ruined my career. He took everything from me. When I heard he was pinning his hopes on some new photographer, I knew I had to act. But why involve Mark? Emma asked. Caroline sighed. Mark and I, we have a history. He also has a score to settle with David. It was a mutually beneficial arrangement. And what about me? I asked, feeling a mix of anger and betrayal. Why drag me into your vendetta? You were collateral damage, Caroline admitted, her voice cold. A means to an end. Feeling the sting of her words, I knew we needed more concrete evidence to expose her. Emma and I decided to follow Caroline and Mark, hoping to catch them in the act. Late one night, we tailed them to a secluded cafe. Hidden in a corner booth, we watched as they discussed their plans. "We need to be careful," Mark said, his voice low. "Samantha and Emma are onto us." "Relax," Caroline replied. "They have nothing concrete. As long as we stick to our story, we're safe." I pulled out my phone, discreetly recording their conversation. This was the evidence we needed. The following morning, armed with the recording, Emma and I went to David. We played the audio for him, watching his expression change from confusion to anger. "I can't believe this," David muttered, shaking his head. Caroline was always ambitious, but I never thought she'd stoop this low. With David's support, we confronted Caroline and Mark. Faced with undeniable evidence, they had no choice but to confess. Caroline's eyes were filled with a mix of anger and resignation. "You may have won this time, Samantha," she said, "but this industry is ruthless. Don't get too comfortable." As Caroline and Mark were escorted out, I felt a mix of relief and exhaustion. Emma put a comforting hand on my shoulder. "It's over, Sam. You did it." "Not alone," I replied, smiling at her. "Couldn't have done it without you." With the truth exposed, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. This journey had been anything but easy, but it had taught me the value of resilience and trust. Now, it was time to focus on what truly mattered: my passion for photography and the bright future ahead. As I stood in the dimly lit studio, the weight of recent events pressed heavily on my shoulders. Emma and I had devised a cunning plan to expose Caroline and Mark, but the stakes were higher than ever. Gathering my thoughts, I turned to Emma, who nodded in silent agreement. The stage was set for our trap. "All right, Emma, we need to make this convincing," I whispered, my voice tinged with both determination and anxiety. "We'll lure them with the promise of insider information about the next big project." Emma, always the pragmatist, adjusted her glasses and replied, "I've already sent the message from a secure email. They think they're meeting with a high-level informant." Our plan was simple: create a scenario where Caroline and Mark would feel compelled to reveal their true intentions, all while secretly recording their conversation. We chose an upscale cafe for the meeting, a place where they would feel safe and off guard. Before heading to the cafe, I checked the hidden recording devices one last time. "Ready?" I asked Emma, who gave me a reassuring smile. "Let's do this," she replied. We arrived at the cafe early and chose a table with a clear view of the entrance. Moments later, Caroline and Mark walked in, their expressions a mix of curiosity and caution. They sat down, and I began the conversation, carefully steering it towards the fabricated project. "It's unbelievable," I started. "David has this massive new project lined up, and he's looking for the best talent to lead it. But he's being extremely secretive about the details." Caroline leaned in, her eyes narrowing. "What kind of project?" she asked, her voice dripping with feigned interest. "Something revolutionary," I continued. "It's going to change the face of the magazine. But there are only a few spots available, and they're looking for innovative minds." Mark, sensing an opportunity, couldn't resist. "And how do we fit into this?" he asked, glancing at Caroline. I paused, pretending to consider his question. "Well, that's the tricky part. We need to prove we're the best candidates. And that means outsmarting anyone else who might be in the running." Caroline's eyes gleamed with malicious intent. "Like Samantha?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. I nodded. "Exactly. She's the biggest threat." As the conversation continued, Caroline and Mark began to reveal their plans, detailing how they intended to sabotage me and secure their positions. Every word, every sinister plot was being recorded. I exchanged a subtle glance with Emma, confirming that our plan was working. But then, disaster struck. Caroline's phone buzzed, and she glanced at the screen, her eyes widening in realization. "It's a trap," she hissed, her face contorting in rage. She stood abruptly, grabbing Emma by the arm. "You're coming with me," she demanded, dragging her out of the cafe. "Emma!" I shouted, but it was too late. Caroline had already disappeared with her. Panic surged through me, but I couldn't let it paralyze me. I quickly called Jason, who had proven his loyalty after our initial suspicions. "Jason, it's Samantha. We need to act fast. Caroline has Emma." Jason's voice was calm and steady. "Where are they taking her?" "I don't know, but we need to find out." "Meet me at the studio," I replied, my heart pounding. Back at the studio, Jason and I reviewed the recordings, hoping to find any clues about Caroline's hideout. "There's an old warehouse on the outskirts of town," Jason suggested, his eyes scanning the footage. "Could be the place." Determined, we headed to the warehouse, our minds racing with possible scenarios. As we approached the dilapidated building, we saw a faint light flickering inside. "This is it," I whispered, steeling myself for what lay ahead. Inside, we found Emma tied to a chair, her eyes wide with fear but otherwise unharmed. Caroline stood nearby, a look of desperation on her face. "You think you can outsmart me?" she spat, her voice trembling with anger. "Let her go, Caroline," I demanded, my voice firm. Caroline hesitated, her eyes darting between us. "You have no idea what I've sacrificed," she muttered. "David, Mark, all of them, they used me." Jason, moving with surprising speed, managed to untie Emma while I kept Caroline distracted. "It's over, Caroline," I said, holding up the recordings. "We have everything we need." But before we could leave, Caroline lunged at me, her desperation turning to violence. In the struggle, I managed to knock her to the ground, pinning her down until the police arrived, thanks to an anonymous tip from Mark, who had finally decided to do the right thing. As Caroline and David were taken away in handcuffs, I couldn't help but feel a mix of relief and exhaustion. Emma hugged me tightly, her voice shaking. "We did it, Samantha. We really did it." "Yeah," I replied, my voice barely a whisper. But it wasn't just us. We had help. Later, as we sat in the studio, reflecting on everything that had happened, Emma received a call. Her eyes widened in surprise as she handed me the phone. "It's someone you need to talk to," she said. "Hello?" I answered, my heart racing. "Samantha, it's your mother," came the unexpected voice. "I've been following your journey, and I knew you had the strength to overcome these challenges. I made the anonymous tip to ensure you had the chance to shine." Tears filled my eyes as I realized the depth of her support. "Thank you, Mom. I couldn't have done it without you." As we approached the abandoned warehouse, my heart pounded in my chest. Jason and I exchanged a look of determination. We knew what was at stake. Emma's life was in danger, and the truth about the conspiracies that had threatened my career hung in the balance. We moved cautiously through the shadowy corridors, the dim light barely illuminating our path. "Stay close," Jason whispered, his voice barely audible. "We don't know what Caroline is capable of." I nodded, swallowing my fear. "We have to get Emma out of there," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. As we neared a large, rusty door, we heard Caroline's voice, sharp and manic. "You thought you could outsmart me, Samantha? You're nothing but a pawn in David's game." Peeking through a crack in the door, I saw Emma tied to a chair, her face pale but determined. Caroline paced back and forth, a glint of madness in her eyes. My mind raced, trying to formulate a plan. Suddenly, another voice joined the fray. "David." My stomach churned as I listened to him. "Caroline, enough. We need those recordings. Samantha won't have a choice but to hand them over if she wants her friend back." I bit my lip, fighting the surge of betrayal and anger. Jason gently squeezed my shoulder, a silent reminder to stay focused. "I have an idea," Jason whispered, leaning in close. "I'll create a distraction. You get Emma out." I hesitated, but seeing the determination in Jason's eyes, I nodded. "Be careful," I whispered back. Jason took a deep breath and then burst through the door. "Hey! What the hell is going on here?" he shouted, drawing everyone's attention. Caroline whipped around, surprise flashing across her face. "Jason, what are you doing here?" "I'm here to stop this madness," he declared, stepping forward. "You won't get away with this." Seizing the moment, I slipped into the room and hurried to Emma's side. "Hang on, Emma. I'm getting you out of here," I whispered, working quickly to untie her. Emma's eyes filled with relief. "Samantha, be careful," she urged. As I freed Emma, Caroline lunged at Jason, but he managed to dodge her, keeping her occupied. David, however, noticed me and started towards us, his expression darkening. "You're not going anywhere, Samantha," he growled. But before he could reach us, the warehouse was flooded with the sound of police sirens. David froze, and Caroline screamed in frustration. The doors burst open, and officers swarmed in, weapons drawn. "Drop your weapons!" Hands in the air, a commanding voice ordered. Jason and I backed away, pulling Emma with us. David and Caroline were quickly subdued and handcuffed. The chaos settled into a tense silence as the reality of what had just happened sank in. One of the officers approached us. "Are you all okay?" he asked, his tone gentle. "We are now," I replied, still shaking from the adrenaline. As the officers led David and Caroline away, Mark appeared, his expression somber. "I'm sorry for everything," he said, his voice heavy with regret. "I couldn't let them hurt you." "Thank you," I said, meaning it. "Your call saved us." Emma, finally free and safe, embraced me tightly. "We did it, Samantha. We exposed them." As we exited the warehouse, the cool night air felt liberating. Emma turned to me, a curious expression on her face. "Who do you think made that anonymous tip?" "I have no idea," I admitted. "But whoever it is, we owe them everything." Weeks later, as the dust settled, I received a letter. It was from my mother, a woman I hadn't seen in years. The letter revealed that she had been the one to make the anonymous tip. She had been following my journey closely, always believing in my potential, even when I doubted myself. Overwhelmed with emotion, I realized that her unwavering belief had been the beacon of hope I needed. With Caroline and David behind bars, my name was cleared, and my talent recognized. The team at Vogue Style rallied behind me, and I finally stepped into the spotlight as one of the most celebrated photographers in the fashion world. Standing in my studio, camera in hand, I knew that this journey had made me stronger. I had faced betrayal and danger, but I had also found friendship, trust, and a renewed sense of purpose. And as I looked into the lens, ready to capture the next moment of beauty, I knew that I had truly found my place in the world.